The heavy rain poured relentlessly as the young man walked home from another long, tiring day. His clothes were soaked, his shoes squished with every step, and his heart felt even heavier than the storm around him. "Why does life always punish me?" he thought, looking up at the dark sky, as if expecting an answer. At 27, he felt like a complete failure. His dreams of becoming a musician had crumbled after countless rejections. He was stuck in a job he hated, earning just enough to pay rent and buy food. His friends had moved on, building families and careers, while he remained trapped in a cycle of despair. Just a few days earlier, he'd been let go from his job. His boss had called him into the office and said, "It's nothing personal, but we're downsizing." Those words replayed in his head over and over. It felt like the final nail in the coffin. He reached his tiny apartment and sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the blank wall. The sound of raindrops tapping on the window filled the silence. He felt lost, hopeless, and empty. That night, he barely slept. Thoughts raced through his mind, memories of his childhood, dreams that once lit up his eyes, and the bitter taste of failure that now consumed him. The next morning, as he sat at his small kitchen table with a cup of stale coffee, he noticed an old photo tucked behind a stack of unopened bills. It was a picture of his grandfather standing proudly beside a broken-down truck. The caption read, "Every setback is a setup for a comeback." He smiled faintly. His grandfather used to tell him stories about the tough times he'd endured, losing his job, facing rejection, yet always finding a way to bounce back. "Life tests you," his grandfather used to say, "to see how strong you really are." Inspired by the memory, he decided to take a walk to clear his head. The rain had stopped, and the sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow on the wet streets. He wandered aimlessly until he stumbled upon a small park. There, he noticed an elderly man sitting on a bench, feeding the birds. Something about the man's serene expression drew him in. He hesitated, but eventually sat down on the other end of the bench. After a few minutes of silence, the old man spoke without looking up. "Life's funny, isn't it?" The young man didn't reply, unsure if the question was directed at him. "It throws storms at you, takes away what you love, and tests your patience," the man continued. "But sometimes, the storm clears to reveal a blessing you couldn't see before." The young man finally spoke. "It doesn't feel like that right now. I've lost everything that mattered to me." The old man turned and smiled kindly. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "There was once a farmer who had a beautiful horse. One day, the horse ran away. His neighbors came to offer their sympathy, saying, 'What bad luck?' But the farmer simply replied, 'Maybe.' A week later, the horse returned, bringing with it a group of wild horses. The neighbors congratulated the farmer, saying, 'What good fortune.' Again, the farmer said, 'Maybe.' Soon after, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses, but fell and broke his leg. The neighbors expressed their sorrow, and once more, the farmer said, 'Maybe.' A month later, soldiers came to the village, drafting all the young men for war. But because of his injury, the farmer's son was spared. The neighbors exclaimed, 'How lucky you are!' And the farmer simply said, 'Maybe.' The young man listened intently, letting the story sink in. "You see," the old man continued, "sometimes what seems like a curse is a blessing in disguise. You just have to wait and see how the story unfolds." The young man thanked the old man and left the park with a lighter heart. He didn't have all the answers, but something inside him shifted. He realized he had been judging his life too soon, focusing only on the storm, not the possibility of what could come after. Over the next few weeks, he started applying for jobs, not just in his field, but anywhere he could grow and learn. He picked up his guitar again, strumming the strings late into the night, finding solace in the music. He also began volunteering at a local community center, helping others who felt lost and forgotten. One day, while performing at a small charity event, a talent scout in the audience noticed him. Impressed by his raw emotion and unique sound, the scout approached him after the performance. That moment led to opportunities he had never imagined, recording an album, performing on bigger stages, and sharing his music with the world. Looking back, he realized that losing his job was the beginning of a journey he'd never have embarked on otherwise. The storm had passed, and the hidden blessing had revealed itself. Sometimes life's toughest moments are just stepping stones to something greater. Never judge your life too soon. The blessing you seek might be hidden in the very challenges you face today.